Hello there. Good day, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. I hope that you're having a fantastic day. My name is Cyreta Laws-Frumau. I'm a performance and mindset coach with the Proctor Gallagher Institute. And I have been going through the 1937 classic, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Now, this book has sold over 15 million copies. This book was recommended to my mentor, the late Bob Proctor, and he read this book for approximately 60 years. He was reading it right up until the moment he died earlier this year. And so I thought it would be a great opportunity to go through it once again and to also share with you as I am going through it. So we're dissecting together, looking for inspiration, but also we are taking action towards our dreams and our big goal. Now we are on chapter 7, organized planning. And chapter 7 is the 6th step towards riches. So this is where we put our desire into action. Now it's a very long chapter. In fact, it is the longest chapter in this book. And we can skip over some stuff, but I want to go through it bit by bit each day. So though it's a long chapter, stick with me as we go through, and also think for yourself what you can implement and how can you become a better person, a better leader. How can you kind of fuse yourself better with your goal that you want to achieve. So in the last video, we spoke about some key factors and a little bit about the mastermind and how to put that into action. And for the rest of our chapter 7, so the remainder of this chapter, we are going to talk about ways, practical ways, how you can market your personal service. So what are some of the practical ways and means you can market your personal service? And Napoleon says here, intelligent planning is essential for success. And I am on page 160 of my book. All right. So we're doing it a little bit different because normally I pick out the main principles or the main points that come out as I read through a chapter. But because we're doing it a bit by bit, I'm picking out some stuff from each page, the pages that I'm reading. And because this chapter is so detailed, I'm actually going through it page by page with you. So on page 2, he says here that there are generally speaking 2 types of persons in the world. And the 2 types are leaders and followers. And the difference in compensation is great. It's vast. So what is he saying? He's saying that someone who is a leader tends to be paid more than someone who is a follower. And there's no disgrace in being a follower. You know, there's no disgrace in being a follower. He says most great leaders began in the capacity of being a follower. So there's no disgrace in being a follower. Most great leaders begin as followers, but they were intelligent followers. So you have to be an intelligent follower to become an effective leader. Okay, so let me recap what I've just said. The remainder of this chapter gives practical ways and means of marketing your personal services. And the principles, he says, are priceless to anyone who aspires to leadership in their chosen profession. So whatever it is that you want to do, it's priceless for you to pick up on what he's saying here. And intelligent planning is essential for success. Great fortune began in the form of compensation for personal services or from the sale of ideas. So great fortune began in the form of compensation for personal services or the form of ideas. And there are two types of persons. There are leaders and their followers. Now then on page 161, he goes into 11 major attributes of leadership. So I'm going to go through that with you, 11 major attributes of leadership. And then, just looking at my notes. And then we are going to talk about the two types of leadership, and we're going to talk finally about the 10 major causes of failure in leadership. So what are the major attributes of leadership? And that is found on page 161 to 163 in my book. Okay, number one, unwavering courage. So this is based upon knowledge of self and of one's occupation. You remember in a previous chapter where Edison, when they were questioning him about irrelevant information, and he said, I don't really need to know that. So you really have to know what your occupation is, what your focus is, and also knowledge of self. And you have to be very courageous about it. So we all know anyone that we think of that's a leader, they're normally courageous. The second attribute is self-control, and that's self-explanatory. The third is a sense of justice. So a leader is someone who's fair. The fourth, definiteness of decision. If someone who is wavering and not sure of making a decision, we tend to think that person is not trustworthy as well. So a leader should be definite about his decision, his or her decision. Okay, the fifth one, definiteness of plans. And this is why we're putting this in place. So you need definite plans. And remember, we said as well, like if one plan doesn't work, change it until it becomes sound. And then when it's sound, we will achieve success. So a successful leader must plan his work and must work his plan. Very critical. The sixth is that you must do more than you're paid for. The seventh, a pleasing personality. The eighth, sympathy and understanding. The ninth, mastery of detail. So successful leadership, he says, calls for mastery of details of the leadership position. So it's not just detailed about any and everything. It's details about your position, about your profession. That's what your focus is, and that's where your attention should go. The 10th point is willingness to assume full responsibility. So a leader is not someone who tries to shift the blame and pass it on to someone else. That just shows that he's incompetent or she's incompetent. If something doesn't work out, the leader should be able to say, okay, that's fine, it didn't work out. We're going to do that. So you don't shirk your responsibility. And the last point, the last attribute is of cooperation. So a successful leader is someone who believes in the power of cooperation. So those were the 11 attributes. Okay. And then the two forms of leadership, there are two forms of leadership. There is the leadership by consent, where the leader gets the sympathy, gets the buy-in from his followers. And in some countries, that's what we call the democratic process, where persons go and they vote and they say, this is the person who I want to lead me. And I am sympathetic to his plight, to his case. I believe that he is the perfect person, and she's the perfect person for the job. So that's one type of leadership. The second type of leadership is leadership by force. And he mentions leadership such as Napoleon, Kaiser Wilhelm of Germany, the Tsar of Russia, the King of Spain. And those were examples of leadership by force. So this was back hundreds of years ago, okay? So, well, Napoleon was 17, when was the French Revolution? 1789. Yeah. So this was some time ago, but we can see examples in our present today where there are examples of leadership by force. And it doesn't have to be in countries, right? Also in organizations, we see some sort of leadership by force. And what Napoleon says here is basically that leaders that lead by force is not sustainable, and that leadership is temporary. So persons will follow them, but they won't do it willingly, and they won't do it forever. So they won't always have their followers. And the final thing that I want to talk about for today is the 10 major causes of failure in leadership. So the 10 major causes of failure in leadership. 1, inability to organize details. And of course, the details is the details about your profession, right? It says effective leadership calls for ability to organize and to master details. No genuine leader is ever too busy to do anything which may be required of him in his capacity as a leader. The successful leader must be the master of all details connected with his position. The second is unwillingness to render humble service. The third, expectation for pay for what they know instead of what they do with that which they know. So expectations for pay for what they know instead of what they do with that which they know. The fourth one is fear of competition from followers. And I've heard of cases, and I've seen several examples where like the leader might try to influence how far some subordinate can go because they're fearful that that person will take over their position. So that's just failure. That's just one of the major causes of that leader going down. So it's only a matter of time. And that's what Napoleon is also saying here. The fifth is lack of imagination. We spoke about imagination in chapter 6, so we know how powerful and how important that is. Selfishness, intemperance, number 7, disloyalty, number 8. Number 9, emphasis of the authority of leadership. So he says the effective leader leads by encouraging and not by trying to instill fear in the hearts of its followers. The leader who tries to impress his followers by his authority comes within the category of leadership through force. And then the last one is emphasis of title. The competent leader requires no title to give him the respect of his followers. The man who makes too much over his title generally has little else to emphasize. The doors to the office of the real leader are open to all who wish to enter, and his working quarters are free from formality or ostentation. Sorry. Okay, so that's it. And some of the language that's being used here, he talks about the competent leader. He talks about the effective leader. So if there are attributes that he's talking about that you have not yet implemented in your style of leadership, it's not too late. See where you can, what do you want to change? And taking inventory of yourself. There's also a part in this very chapter that he goes into taking inventory of yourself. So take inventory of yourself, and as you move towards the thing that you want, What knowledge do you need? Do you master the details of your profession? So what we've said for today is that he's given us now practical ways of marketing our personal services. And it is your personal services or the sale of an idea that you have that will bring riches to you. So, and he spoke about leadership and being a follower. And nothing is wrong if you're initially a follower, but you must be an intelligent follower. So who are you following? For what reason? Are they someone that can lead you to the path that you want to go? Okay, and then we spoke about 11 major attributes of leadership, and we spoke about the 10 major causes of failure in leadership. You want to be a leader who is a leader not by force. You want to exhibit empathy. You want to know your profession. You want to not only talk or boast about a title, but you want to actually demonstrate that you are well-versed in your profession. So that's it for me today. So this is part 2 of chapter 7. I hope you're liking it so far. Thank you so much for your wonderful comments. And I look forward to seeing you in my next video as we continue in chapter 7. I wish you a lovely day ahead. Take care of yourselves. Bye.